even though she would explain in detail about how she wanted to do it, how she wanted to unalive herself. But she didn't do it because she understood the reality of his own fragile mental state. And she didn't want to take herself out of his life, knowing that he had had that tragic situation of his mother being taken out, ripped abruptly from his life. It's all very, very carefully crafted and, in a sense, a curated narrative. So she's been doing this for such a long time. That's why it's so dark. That's why it's so dark. It's abysmal. It's tragic. Tactic didn't work. That people didn't believe her. They didn't believe that that's what she really wanted to do. And that's why she hasn't discussed it since. And I think she's probably embarrassed about the fact that she used the sensitive and tragic topic of suicide in order to get sympathy. Well, hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jennifer. So happy to have you here. Thinking about Meghan's Harper's Bazaar interview, and I knew I wanted to make a video about it, obviously, because it's a wealth of material to analyze and to talk about with you guys. And I really think that there are 5 main takeaways that Meghan's trying to portray to us in this Harper's Bazaar interview. Things that she wants us to believe about her, real things that bother her that she wants to come across to us. But it just all falls flat because we all see right through it. We see right through everything this woman has been trying to do for the last 5 years. Main thing right off the bat, she's still unbelievably unlikable. And this is basically due to the fact that she's just still desperately trying to control the narrative in such a pointed, obvious way that it's very off-putting for all of us out here. We can see it. We can see her trying to manipulate scenarios, portray herself as, the ever put upon victim. We see through all of this. She's been doing this for so long now that there literally is a Meghan playbook that so many of us out here can look and see what this woman is doing and just, run through our checklists. Are the royal families doing anything of any type of importance or consequence? Okay, then her and Harry are going to come out with some kind of news blurb or PR puff piece article. Check. Is Catherine doing anything of any importance? Is the king doing anything of any importance? Oh, well, they're going to pull something out of their hat. Check. It's constant. And it's the constant rewriting of history. It's the constant victim narrative. So we're going to get into all of it. And of course, you may or may not know that I'm a licensed esthetician and a makeup artist. So I love talking about those things. So we're going to take a couple of, fun looks at the article from the beauty perspective, talk about the pictures, my opinion on the pictures and what's going on there. So we'll dissect that. But then I also just wanted to talk about those 5 main takeaways that I think she's trying to drive home, but I'm going to turn it around because I think there are some things here that are actually very, very dark and very, very deep that is going on with Meghan and her psyche. And I really do believe that it's gotten worse in the last 2 years as the public backlash and public scrutiny about her and her every move and everything that she does, everything's been dialed up 10 notches. The criticism has just gotten really, really loud on 2 continents. The first 3 years or so after Megxit, a lot of the negative press and criticism that Meghan was getting was kind of centered in the UK. But now in the last 2 years or so, it's gotten really loud in the United States as well. And this goes against Harry and Meghan's plan because they were really banking on being liked in America by us buying into her victim narrative, by us looking at the royals the way that they wanted us to look at the family, as some racist, patriarchal institution that was stifling them, not letting them have a voice. According to Meghan and that Oprah interview back in 2021, that oppressive environment of the monarchy made her want to unalive herself and her unborn child. And we're going to get into that because there's a story that I read this past week, and it is about assisted dying. There was a very famous singer, dancing, acting, entertainment twin duo. They were called the Kessler Twins, Ellen and Alice Kessler, and they were very, very popular in the 50s and 60s. And this story really, really caught my eye because my family and I are here in Germany for 3 years living here. And these twins, the Kessler twins, were very, very popular in Europe, particularly in Germany, their home country, and in Italy. And they made headlines because they partnered with a German assisted death association to basically assist them with self-inflicted suicide. And they had a physician and a lawyer present, and they were involved with this organization. And the acronym is DGHS. They're the German Society for Humane Dying. And I found out that here in Germany, assisted death, physician-assisted death by suicide is allowed in and legal in certain circumstances if the person that wants to have an assisted death is deemed, full mental capacity. They're not being pressured. They are taking this into serious consideration and making the final determination that they want to end their lives, that is legal. And I was reading this tragic story and it really upset me for a good 2 days after I read it. I am a Catholic Christian and I obviously look upon suicide, any suicide, as a tragedy. You don't have to be Christian to look at suicide as a tragedy, but I want to offer you my perspective on this story and how, when I was reading it, it made me think of Meghan. It brought me back to Meghan and her ongoing changing victim narrative that she's been exposing us to for the last 5 years. Because again, in that Oprah interview, she talked about one of the lowest points in her life, allegedly, according to her, was that when she wanted to unalive herself because of all of the unfair and just impossible to navigate scrutiny and being in a family that was oppressing her. And it was just all too much for her psyche to bear, that as a pregnant woman, she contemplated killing herself. And I read about that story about the Kessler twins and what a tragedy that was. And it made me remember how Meghan used suicide, the topic of suicide, as a narcissistic power play ploy in her ever-changing narrative to garner public sympathy and to effectively, in her mind, what she hoped to do, which was immediately halt all public criticism of her, because she was starting to hear more and more grumblings at that time about why they left and the circumstances that they left under. And the bullying claims were starting to come out, and so many unsavory stories about her and things that were actually verifiable. And people that knew her at the palace, that worked for her, that knew what was going on about her. It was all starting to leak out. So I really do feel that she used that suicide narrative in order to garner public sympathy first and foremost, and to halt any further criticism of her, because she really felt that if she played that card, that anyone that would criticize her from that point on would just be deemed unfair, racist, and nasty. So we're going to get into it. This does get a little bit dark and it does get a little bit deep, but I do feel that it really is something that needs to be brought up and it needs to be said, because again, I do see some very dark things going on with this woman. And I think that we need to bring up this subject because this woman has used real tragic problems that plague our culture and our society. She's used these issues and these problems as a way to deflect criticism. And I think that it's necessary and it's important to bring it up. But to start things off, let's just talk about the aesthetics of the article. Okay. I'm all about the hair. I'm all about the skin. I'm all about the makeup. If you're new to my channel, you might not know I'm an esthetician and a makeup artist, but this is what I hone in on when I first look at stuff like this. I'm not into trashing people's appearance, okay? That's not what this is about. I personally feel that Meghan has looked beautiful in the past, and there are instances where she does look very pretty. She does know how to put herself together, but this is a fashion and beauty magazine, This is something that she is putting out there for our consumption because this is an image that she's trying to portray. And I do feel that in that sense, it is fair to talk about it and give your opinion. You don't have to be mean or rotten or super nasty about it, but you can definitely have an opinion. And okay, the whole makeup vibe in this article, and I'm looking at it on my iPad here as I'm talking to you guys, it's supposed to be the no makeup look that Meghan's trying to do here. Now, back in the summertime, I had a series that I did when Meghan went on the Jamie Kern Lima podcast. And they were banging on about how they were not wearing makeup. They were not wearing makeup, that they were just, two girls in the rocking chairs. Fair enough. But I took issue with it because I know they're full of crap. They were wearing makeup. Both of them were wearing makeup, okay? A lot more than they would like us to believe. It's called the no makeup look. There's still a lot of makeup that you can pile on your face, but make it look natural and, to enhance and define your features without looking overly made up. And that's what they had. They were both wearing tinted moisturizer. They both defined their brows. They both had light lipstick on. I go into all of it in that video. And I even show you how to recreate a really soft, pretty, mature, especially if you're over 40, as both of those women are, Jamie and Meghan, how to do that, how to do like a really soft, mature, no makeup look, but have it work and have it come across. So I will go ahead and link that somewhere or below in the description. But point being, she's been on this no makeup ship for a while now, and it's really, really coming into the forefront in this article. And let me just go through some of these photos with you. But the first thing I'm going to say, the image that she used for the cover, that's how my hair looks when I'm cleaning my house, you guys. Okay? What is with this hair? I don't understand. Either it's pulled back so tightly and so severely, like how it was in Paris Fashion Week, or it's like this. The reason why this image is weird and jarring, in my personal opinion, is that the clothes. Now, I actually think that this dress jacket that she's wearing, and who did this jacket? I don't know, because I know she's wearing clothes from Dior and Ferragamo or whatever, but whatever. The jacket is very, very nice. I like it. But what's jarring about the photo and why so many people are commenting on the off-kilter aesthetic of this whole entire article is that look at the pretty, polished fashion, but then look at the hair and the makeup. The fashion speaks going out, luxury, all that, but the hair and the makeup don't jive. The hair looks like she's in the middle of doing her hair, like how you would pull your hair back while you're doing your makeup, but then, don't you want to style it before you go out the door, before you're wearing this little cute, like tuxedo, feminine looking jacket thing? I don't understand what's going on. She has quite a bit of heavy eye makeup, but again, she just looks very drawn and sallow, and she looks older than her 44 years in this picture, in my humble opinion. And for me, what's really jarring is that hairdo. I think that even if she would have pulled it back super tight, like how she did in Paris Fashion Week, that would have looked a lot better than what she's done. Because it kind of looks like, again, like a loose pony or a loose bun that I throw my hair back in while I'm cleaning the house because I don't want my hair and everything, like while I'm cleaning a toilet. So it's just, it's just weird. And you've got all of these black and white photos of her. And again, the hair looks like it's an afterthought, like it's just kind of like thrown back behind her shoulders, but she's not really caring about it. The vacant stare. The vacant stare is through all of these pictures. She's doing this weird stare in the one picture where she's got her elbow over the back of the chair. Then she's got the weird stare again where she's sitting on the floor. And I don't know, but I just really feel that this woman is obsessed with her feet, like obsessed. And there's pictures that have floated around out there online that show her bunions that she had on her feet before she married into the family, and then how her feet look after she married the royal family, because she did have some pronounced bunions on her feet that she, I believe, had surgically removed. I really don't think that she likes her feet all that all that much or finds them feminine, but she's still obsessed with showing us her feet and talking to us about her feet and wearing sandals and stuff.
Well, if you still answer your door barefoot or with your apron on, everyone goes, oh, she's still in this with me. It takes a lot. It just demystifies this pressure and the feeling.
But the reason why I don't think she likes her feet, and maybe it's just me just kind of picking up on these weird things, but she kind of has her toes bent in that way where you can't really see the entire front and form of her foot. Like her toe is bent. So I guess it's supposed to convey whimsy or whatever, but it also prevents you from getting a really good look at her foot full on. So whenever she does show her feet, if you'll notice, she kind of does weird things like that, like the weird ways that she'll like position them or she'll make them blurry. But I don't know, she just has a foot fetish to me. She's always talking about her bare feet and showing us her feet all the time. It's just, tell me if you believe that as well. But I've just noticed that about this woman. She's obsessed with feet and with love, how she was barefoot cooking in the kitchen. People don't cook in the kitchen barefoot if they're concerned about safety, okay? You don't want a hot liquid being dumped on your feet. You don't want to trip in bare feet if you spill something on the floor. It's weird. I have a pair of shoes that I use when I'm at home. They're kind of like a cross between a slipper and a slip-on. And I wear those at home. I don't go outside with them. They're just like my house shoes, so to speak. But I always have closed-toed shoes on in the kitchen, especially when you're doing stuff in there, because you want to protect your feet, you know? Like, yes, I really think that trench coat was unbelievably big, like way, way too big. They definitely needed to size that down. She is very, very slight. She's very, very thin. And a lot of clothes that she wears, that she chooses, are always ill-fitting. They're wrinkled, they're not tailored, and they swallow her up. She just looks like a girl playing dress up. It's not communicating to me. And then the one where she's draped on the chair in that Ferragamo dress, the one thing I thought of when I looked at that picture is your armpit, like the inside of your armpit. If you move just 2 centimeters one way, it's going to get all over that chair. Why is your armpit? People don't want armpit on their chair. Somebody owns that chair. That chair is somewhere in the possession of the Harper Bazaar, fashion shoot team, whether in a warehouse or in an office somewhere. And it's got Meghan's armpit juice all over it now. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. But the one picture, I haven't even mentioned this. Aside from all the Diana cosplay, all the ways that she has recreated the black and white and red dress Diana imagery in this article, that is a whole nother video off the charts. Creepy, creepy, scary. But don't think for a second that she doesn't know that we're all out here saying that she's constantly trying to cosplay Diana. I really think at this point, she's just trolling us. She's just doing it because she knows that we're going to say it and it's going to garner headlines and it's going to get clicks on articles talking about how yet again she's trying to recreate Diana and her imagery. Whether or not she really, really wants to, I think is irrelevant at this point. She's just trying to get clicks and she's trying to get her name out there. She's just obsessed with us talking about her in whatever capacity. And also, how many times is Duchess of Sussex mentioned in this article? So many people out here are talking about how they really feel like her and Harry are scared to death that their titles are going to be removed soon, because we all saw what happened to Andrew. Not only the dukedom, but the princely title was stripped as well. I think those two are fighting for their lives right now, really scared that the titles are going to be pulled. And if William has anything to do with it, they will be pulled. And I've talked about that in some of my other videos. But a point being, a lot of people out here are saying that that's why she's really, really going hard on the Duchess of Sussex stuff, because she wants to kind of plant it in our minds so that if and when the titles do get pulled, it'll maybe garner more sympathy for her, because she'll be able to point it out again as another thing that horrible, evil, rotten, racist institution has done to a biracial woman, pull her title, right? So the more that she can remind us that she's the Duchess of Sussex, that's going to make that even more of a poignant moment when the titles do get stripped. But whatever, fair enough. Say whatever you're going to say, Meghan. They're going to be stripped. But yeah, so the whole Diana cosplay stuff, the whole Duchess stuff, The one photo that really, really did kind of scare me in this article was the one where she's wearing the red Balenciaga dress, leaning against the wall. And it's in this particular photo where I really do see, in my personal opinion, where this woman has had eyelid surgery. Meghan had a really beautiful hooded eye shape when she married into the family. Her lids were heavier, but I mean, they didn't look droopy or weird or aging or anything. I thought they were quite pretty and fit her face. But you'll notice over the last year or so, she's got significantly more eyelid space from her upper lash line to her eyebrows. And that, I believe, is from eyelid surgery. She has had a lot of that excess skin of the hooded eye area removed, and this is what we're left it with. And it's not makeup trickery either, because if you zoom in, you can see the folds of eyelid skin, and that skin is skin that's been operated on, in my opinion. You know, if I were Meghan, I would have asked them to airbrush those weird skin folds out, because that to me is more proof that she has had some type of altered surgery. But I mean, this woman has been working on her face since she's been in high school. Her nose shape changed by the time she graduated high school. If you look at pictures of her in middle school versus pictures of her when she graduated high school, her nose definitely got more chiseled, and it definitely changed. And it's changed a few times, in my opinion, over the years. But it's Botox, it's filler, it's eyelid surgery, it's nose refinement, nose jobs. I also think that she does probably get Botox in her outer jaw, her masseter muscles here. A lot of people do, especially people that grind their teeth that have TMJ. More and more dentists now are doing this, where it kind of softens those muscles so that they don't hurt as much as for teeth grinders and things like that. But it also has the effect of softening a very angled jaw, because if you look at pictures of Meghan in the past, her jaw was a lot more, in my opinion, angular, whereas now it's a bit softer. So I also think she's getting Botox in her jaw as well, because she has a tendency to really clench when she's in interviews and when she is being photographed. She has a really strong jaw. So that's just what I'm seeing in these pictures, you guys. Just a lot of vacant looks, a lot of really oversized clothing that doesn't really fit properly. The picture of her wearing the white cashmere pants, the super baggy pants, and the white turtleneck in that chair, and the black pointy flats, that's a really ugly masculine stance. Does nothing for her. I really think it's gross. Would you sit like that if you were a lady, if you were a duchess wearing a skirt? Don't think so. To me, I think she's just trying to convey a power stance to us, to show that she's above it and doesn't care. I'm sorry, I just see it as yucky and completely unladylike. I've always thought that however you're sitting, especially if you're being photographed or in public, if you wouldn't sit that way wearing a skirt, then don't sit that way even if you're wearing pants. That's just my take on the whole thing. But again, when she's sitting in the stool with her feet up on that block, just another vacant stare. It's just all vacant, hollow. It's just a continuation of the dark energy that I was seeing in Paris for Paris Fashion Week. And I don't see it as beautiful. I don't see it as aspirational. I don't even really see it as high fashion. I just see it as boring. I see it as boring and bland. It's just black. It's just white. It's just beige. And if she does do color, she might throw in, like how she did here, a red dress, a primary color, but it's just that one picture. Everything else is either black and white or just beigey boring. It's boring. Just all stuff that we've seen from her over and over and over again. She really, really needs to get a new shtick, because I'm telling you, I get my clothes at Target and Walmart and Nordstrom and Amazon, okay? Even more so Amazon now that I'm living in Germany. And I mean, they just don't really have a lot of stores and things that are like what I'm used to where I live, which is fine. I'm totally fine with getting stuff off of Amazon. I don't care. But I got this sweater at Target 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And to me, it's got more personality and fun than anything that she's showing up in or has shown up in the past few years. It's all boring. It's just boring and just ugh. And you don't get that vibe with Catherine. When Catherine wears something, it's tailored, it's colorful, it's put together. She's made to stand out in the sense that you know she's being photographed and she's at events and she's at charitable endeavors, like at her patronages, and she's out and she's supporting. It's items and pieces that are colorful enough to help her stand out, but also things that aren't too overly garish or to call too much attention. It's such a wonderful, delicate balance in everything that the Princess of Wales does. And it does come across as authentic, and it does come across as someone who is there to show up and serve, and someone that doesn't have to prove her authenticity to us, because she's just authentically her. And just the fact that she doesn't make everything all about her the way that this woman does, that's why we love Catherine. Because when you have to constantly tell the world how authentic you are and how beautiful you are without no makeup, because that's the message she's trying to send. She thinks she's beautiful in these pictures. She's trying to tell us that she's open and vulnerable and not hiding behind a lot of, hair and makeup. And she's just showing up authentically who she is. And that's why she's worthy of our admiration. That's not what being authentic is about. That is feigned authenticity. That's hiding behind this aura of perceived vulnerability. And you're just so authentically whimsical that you're not taking the time to overly make yourself up. So that's why you're relatable, and that's why we should love you. And it's just, she just gets it wrong at every single turn. And I'm telling you, this article is doing nothing for her business. But again, I talked about that in my video about why I feel As Ever is a dying brand. I don't think she cares about that business. I just think it's a side hustle. It's just a side hustle to get headlines and clicks and to keep her relevant. It's not anything that she's really, really concerned with or really, really interested in. She talks about wanting to build a brand and a legacy with this thing, this As Ever. That's not what it is. It's just a vehicle for her to keep her in the news. That's my personal opinion. But okay, fair enough. Just go by what she's saying. She's a founder. She's an entrepreneur. She's working so hard. Then why plug this article to us now at this point? And she doesn't even really mention anything about As Ever in the article. The author mentions it in passing about how she's promoting jams and all of this and wine because it's helping her realize her authentic self and helping her bring that to us. But beyond that little blurb, she's not really talking about her business anymore. She's not talking about being a founder. She's past it. She's now in her I want to be a model phase, you guys. And I'm still a duchess, okay? I'm being announced when I walk into a room, when the reporter and her are the only two souls in that New York brownstone in that part of the article, and she's being announced to the author. That's important right now. She is a duchess, model, fashionista. How shallow can you be? How shallow and tragic can this get? But okay, so that's the whole aesthetic. Let's get into the actual article, the 5 things that she really wants us to know and remember about her. But the problem is, Meghan, is that we're on to you. We're on to you. Your plans are foiled yet again. So you have to go back to your mansion and just, try to Mr. Burns your way out of this one, because we're not buying it. Okay, so the first thing I think Meghan really, really wants us to get in this article is that she is a very vulnerable woman who really just sees herself still as an innocent 11-year-old middle schooler. And she's doing this, I believe, as a way to, again, stop and deflect all criticism, because she still has a very somewhat vulnerable psyche, and she wants us to think that she's viewing the world through a child's eyes, through childlike innocence that she still retains from her youth. And so in that sense, it's really unfair and nasty and horrible of us out here as normal functioning adults in society, I guess. It's unfair of us to criticize her. And in the article, she is starting it out by showing up at the Natural History Museum in LA at the La Brea Tar Pits. And I know this museum well because I grew up in Southern California. So I remember going to that museum as, I don't know, a fourth or fifth grade field trip or something. So I remember that. And I remember going out looking at the La Brea Tar Pits because it's really famous. They have these big elephants. I don't know if they're statues, but these huge elephants that are in there. And what it's supposed to be conveying is that they're, being stuck in the tar. But it's a really big display. And I remember looking at that as a little kid and being a little scared of it. It is a little scary, but it's trying to further I have the vulnerable and just childlike innocence, middle school psyche, just like these 11-year-olds that she shows up to the Natural History Museum to meet with. And they are supposedly these 11 and 12-year-old girls that like to participate in STEM activities. And STEM is like science, it's technology, it's math, it's engineering, it's supporting girls that have a love for subjects that are traditionally male-dominated fields. So I think that's why she's equating herself and showing that she's meeting up with these girls that are 11 and 12, and they're just all naive and they're wide-eyed and they're innocent and they love math and science, and she's there to kind of just show up. But it's starting in this part, it's one of two incidences in the article where she is announced. Her title is announced to these children, which I think is a kind of odd thing to do because 11 and 12-year-old kids, particularly in America, probably don't know a whole heck of a lot about the British royal family anyway, and they probably don't even know who this woman is. But the reason why she has the backdrop of these young girls, again, is to show that she is always been a super smart, nerdy type of girl, and that's how she still sees herself, and that's what she wants us to associate her with. And, so why do we criticize her? Because she's just a child at heart, like we need to all get over ourselves and give her a freaking break, right? It says, Meghan 44 stands in the middle of the group. She lives a life accompanied by a level of scrutiny that every tween girl imagines is always present. Except for Meghan, it is very real. I don't know how any woman could see a young girl and not see herself in her, especially at that age, Meghan tells me later. Okay, I have a 12-year-old girl, so I can attest that when you're 12, I've been a 12-year-old girl and I am a mother to a girl who is currently 12. I see all of this. I know that tweens, middle schoolers, they are going through an awkward phase in their life where they're trying to figure themselves out. They're trying to figure out the world. They're trying to navigate and figure out personal, social relationships, different things. Everything's embarrassing to them. It's just, yes, it's par for the course. But this woman is still perpetually stuck in this mindset. And you're supposed to feel sympathy. We give these girls a break, so why not give her a break? We're done with this because you are now 44 years old, Meghan. And at what point in your life are you going to take responsibility for your actions, for what you've done and what you have said, everything that you've done? Stop telling us about a letter you wrote when you were 11 years old regarding dishwashing soap and how you were going to save the world. Stop showing up in situations with other people's children, announcing your title and trying to hide and kind of play off their childlike innocence and the way that you wouldn't criticize a child, and you're trying to hide behind that as if to say, don't criticize me either. Do you see what she's doing here? It's all very weird. It's all very, very crafty. So that's the first thing. It's a negative narrative because it's a narrative that's not allowing for any type of grown-up 44-year-old personal accountability. That's why it's despicable, and that's why we are all sick of it. What's the second thing she wants to drive home in this article? Well, here we go again. Anyone who criticizes her is a horrible, evil, awful racist, period. Okay? I don't know if she firmly believes this. I guess she does. She's been doing this for so long that I guess this is what she really believes. At first, when I first watched that Oprah interview, I thought, wow, she seems way too smart for this. Why would she be saying things? Why would she throw out these accusations that she knows really can't be substantiated in any meaningful way? And she also knows that the people that she was accusing in the family, she's stirring up trouble because she's not naming names, but yet she's insinuating things, which leaves the door really, really wide open to interpretation and leads to a lot of damage being done to the family and the institution and what it stands for. And she's smart and she's crafty and she knew that. So that's why back then I thought, okay, this is particularly horrible and egregious behavior, but I can see what she's doing as a malignant narcissist. I could see why she's doing it. Again, basically just, say, hey, I'm a victim and this is what these people did to me. And that's supposed to stop all the criticism and supposed to get us all off her back. It's nasty, but that's her little smart strategy that she thought she was engaging in. But now, as people are waking up to the fact that this is all BS, that we are all individuals and should be looked on as such. We need to judge people and others and ourselves as individuals accountable for our own behavior, and stop engaging in tribalism and stop grouping people and saying all Black people are like this and all white people are like this and all Asians are like this. It's a damaging, horrible, anti-Christian mentality, frankly. I can think of nothing less that is more anti-Christian than all this looking at people as groups and tribes and boxing people into these groups. And that's all garbage, okay? We're all made in the loving image of God, and He wants us to take accountability and own our own actions. We all have free will and we all need to take some personal accountability. So that was, a little bit of a tangent, so I digress. But she's still buying into it, and maybe she really does believe it if this is what she is still to this day pushing so hard. This author of this article in particular, Caitlin Greenidge, whatever, she seems to really buy into this too. And let me just read you the part that really, really got me ticked off. When she first married into the family, Meghan shot to global superstardom and became the subject of an intense public fascination made up of equal parts adoration and vitriol. The contrast in Meghan and Harry's backgrounds: she was American, he was British, she was a working actress from a modest family. They were upper middle class, okay? Modest, please. And he was a royal. She was biracial, and he was a symbol for an imaginary monoracial Britain. Scrambled multiple narratives. Depending on your perspective, their union symbolized the triumph of liberal post-racial meritocracy or the downfall of traditional conservative values. So this author is clearly buying into this as well. This is the line in the sand that the author is drawing. They're basically saying, if you have criticized her in the past or continue to criticize her, you are a conservative racist. And if you love the woman and everything that she stands for, you are part of a more progressive society that is really championing the marginalized. And, you are sympathetic. You're a good person. You know what? Let's call it what it is. Putting people into boxes, this idea of tribalism, this idea of division, this idea of pitting people against one another by race and by gender. That is what these people do day in and day out. It is their bread and butter. You know what? This is so unbelievably ignorant. And this writer, she's writing from the point of view of the Western woke set, because actually, she doesn't know that, for example, in the Roman Catholic Church, some of the most conservative, traditional Catholic Christians are the Black African bishops on the African continent. They are some of the strongest voices out there to uphold traditional Christian values. They're the ones talking about how marriage is the union between a man and a woman. They are the ones speaking out about transgenderism, about all the hot button topics of the day, and they're doing it from, one of Meghan's favorite phrases, through the lens. They're doing it through the lens of traditional Christian values. So this shows right there that this author knows nothing about that. Just because you're brown or Black doesn't mean that you can't hold traditional conservative values, traditional Christian conservative values. So this is what I mean when these people want to put people into boxes and pit groups against one another. And the way that people look and can view life has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It just It gets me so unbelievably ticked off. But yeah, so that's the second thing. Meghan is a perpetual victim of a racist, patriarchal society that wants to keep her down, that wants to stifle her, and that ultimately wanted her to make her unalive herself. And I thought of one other thing. Now, this author talks about how in all of these hurtful and untrue narratives that, according to Meghan, have been swirling around about her for the last 5 years, that in all of these narratives that she lost her agency and she's lost her humanity. Meghan's actually getting this author to put forth that idea. She's lost her humanity, you guys. With all these luxury designer clothes that she's been wearing, the thousands upon thousands of dollars of jewelry that she's constantly throwing in our faces that she wears, this home that she lives in, this 16 bedroom, or what is it? I think it's 16 bathrooms or something, right? Some crazy thing. This mansion that she lives in Montecito, and this title that she's constantly throwing in our faces trying to monetize, that in all of that, she's lost her humanity. Does that make any kind of sense to you? She has money. She has fame. She has a global platform. She has money at her disposal to pump into her PR firm to constantly throw these types of media articles out about her. She has so much privilege that so many of us could just even dream of. But you know what? I think the normal everyday person that looks at this shit show going on would want nothing to do with this anyway. This is such a hollow life and a hollow existence. So in essence, she has lost her own humanity when you think about it, but it's a situation of her own making. That people don't like her because she has lied, because she is disingenuous. That's what's causing her to lose her humanity. Because humanity isn't just so much how you view yourself. Because what Meghan and this author of this article are trying to convey is that she's lost her sense of self and who she is because of all the mean, nasty vitriol and things that people are doing and saying about her, right? But your humanity also is in your right and responsibility to your fellow man, to how you relate to people and how you treat others. And she has really, really dropped the ball in that sense because she does not have any personal accountability. And in that sense, she's denying her own humanity and the responsibility that she has to her friends, to her family, and to the culture at large. When you don't take any personal responsibility to us all out here, that is losing your humanity. That is putting up a wall between her and us because we don't buy it. She knows why we don't buy it. We don't buy it because she's lied and because she's been deceptive, in my personal opinion. She's not taking us seriously. She's really taking us for fools. That's why she's disliked. She's constantly blaming people like us that she doesn't know and blaming people in her own life, her friends and her family that she's ghosted and, cut ties with and had horrible relations with over the years. She's blaming them too. She's blaming everybody else for all of her problems and for all the things that are going wrong in her life. Again, no personal accountability. That's losing your humanity too. When you completely just shut yourself off to everything that everyone's telling you, that's why she feels so lost. That is why she feels that she lost her humanity. But it doesn't have anything to do with people like us. It doesn't have anything to do with people rightly criticizing her for her words and actions. It has to do with the fact that she's basically put her hands in her ears and said, I am not going to listen to anybody. So constantly calling people racist, constantly putting people into boxes as horrible, awful people who just really don't like her just because we're nasty and evil, right? She's taking away our humanity by doing that. So it's a really sick situation. I told you this was dark. It really is dark. The third thing that she really wants us to get from this article is that she's not perfect and she's capable of making mistakes. And the quote is from the article, "There's no such thing as perfect. I too get to make mistakes. There's also not a lot of fun in trying to be perfect. So why try to do that if you want to have fun?" This just goes back to something as simple as why no one likes her jams and spreads and, wine and hay in a box, and why no one likes her Netflix show. She's just allowed to have fun and make mistakes. And that's what she's doing. That's what 11-year-old inner child Meghan is trying to do. Just go out and have fun and be her best self. And we're just horrible, evil, rotten people because we don't like her, because we see through the fake facade, this curated, weird, hollow material. And at the end of the day, a lot of it really comes down to just what is she bringing to this supposed lifestyle influencer space that she's trying so desperately to master? She's not really bringing anything to it. I have a whole video where I talked about, as an esthetician, I watched the first season where she's making a bath salt recipe and she's just dumping ingredients into a bowl, not even being mindful of what the heck she's doing. She's putting what looked like essential oil, arnica essential oil. Now, it could have been a blend, and I go into all of that in that video. It could have been a blend. It could have been just straight arnica essential oil. I had no idea, but she's blending salts. She's blending all this stuff. She's throwing it together. She's not giving us ratios. She's not even giving us an actual itemized list of what to do and how to do it, how to store it, what to do. Nothing. And just even as an esthetician watching that infuriated me because I know that one of the most sensitizing ingredients in skincare is essential oils. And I know the difference between pure essential oils and oil blends that have carrier oils that are fatty acid oils blended with essential oils so that the essential oils don't irritate skin. It's a whole genre. But she wasn't even caring enough about her audience to just even offer a little bit of background as to what she's doing, saying, this is this, be cautious with this, be cautious of that, patch test, whatever. Even as something as simple as that, or just rebagging pretzels. What is she bringing to the space? She's not really bringing anything. So maybe people don't like the show because she's not teaching us anything. People read that. We read that. We can feel it. People want authenticity. They don't want perfection. And this woman is wearing thousands upon thousands of dollars of jewelry. She's wearing white and beige and cashmere and all of these types of things that you wouldn't want to wear in a kitchen when you're, stirring a bubbling pot of jam, according to her. All of this stuff. So point being, you come and form an opinion, and that opinion is that you don't like what you're seeing, that you are a horrible person that doesn't allow someone like her that just wants to have fun and make mistakes. We all suck, basically. And it's like, please, we've all had enough. And we've all had enough. What is this? The 257th rebrand? But it runs counter to the whole With Love Meghan Netflix deal and everything that she's trying to do with As Ever. They're two distinct and highly competitive personas that don't really mesh well together. And yes, people can have different personas and sides to their personality, absolutely. But when you're trying to build a brand, when you're trying to do what she's supposedly trying to do, because she had a whole podcast about it, remember Confessions of a Female Founder? She's a founder. She's trying to build a legacy brand and she's trying to build something for us. So when you try to do that, but yet you've got all these competing personas and all this weird competing content out there all at the same time, how is the public supposed to make sense of any of it? We don't understand what you're trying to do. Like, are you a stay-at-home mom that really just loves to make spread in your kitchen and you're just like bringing your homemade goods to the masses and you're just Susie Homemaker? And if so, great. Or are you this serious model who's trying to just show that she's a high fashion glamour puss now? Anyway, so moving on. The fourth thing is that she's very nice and affable. And she's used in the article, her friend Serena Williams, several quotes from Serena in the article to point out to us what a wonderful, just down-to-earth person Meghan is. And she just loves a good mimosa. And her and Meghan can just sit and talk for hours, like 10 hours at a time, and it feels like 15 minutes. They're so close. And she's got her friend Kelly in this article who talks about how, when Kelly was going through the grief of her son that died during the pandemic, I believe it was 8 or 9-year-old son. And yes, that is a tragedy. But even Kelly's using the tragedy of the death of her own son to point out to us that Meghan was there for her during the entire ordeal. Through all the grief that Kelly experienced, Meghan was there and continues to be there for her friend. So Meghan's capitalizing and trying to use other people's grief. And this Kelly is letting her do it. Can you please explain any of this to me? I don't understand any of these people, but I guess this is what these people do. They scratch each other's backs for publicity, for any little kind of notoriety, and it's really sad. Serena and Kelly are going to tell you how nice she is. The last thing that Meghan wants to come across to us in this article, the fifth thing, is that she's a very, very hard worker. If you watched my series from the Aspire podcast with Emma Grede, that interview that she did when she was pushing her founder persona to us at that time, when she was really, really doing full court press on getting her business out there, getting us ready for what she was serving up hot and fresh with this As Ever. And she works really, really hard. She talked about that in that interview, and she's really driving it home here too. And if you don't believe it, then you just are a jerk who doesn't understand or appreciate what she's doing or what she's up against, okay? Because she has been exposed to a level of criticism that most of us out here will never understand or appreciate. So that is why she is such a hard worker. And there's a quote in here where I was like, okay, again with this Meghan, I mean, really? She talks about how, she's part of the millennial generation that really seems to get a lot of their self-actualization and value and self-worth from work and their careers. This is in her DNA, this community of work and connection, and there's a lot of word salad in here. I think the moment that you start making all of your personal decisions based on external judgment, then you lose your authenticity. And that's very telling that they're using that quote at the point in the article where they're talking about her career and how hard she works. Because she's basically telling us that it's our external judgment and our harsh criticism of her that is what is, in effect, helping lead her fight against saying, I'm not going to lose my authenticity. I'm not going to listen to you people, and I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. But any founder worth their salt is actually going to turn comments on, which is something she hasn't done. Actually, maybe do tests with focus groups and talk to people out there in social media, but in a meaningful way, not send free stuff to your sycophantic stans out there who's going to like anything that you do. She could vomit into a jar and they would buy it. You have to open yourself up to criticism and scrutiny from the public if you want us to buy into a brand and you want us to just buy stuff from you. But she's trying to set it up as we're the villains. We're projecting external judgment on her, and she's not going to allow that from us. I guess it's okay for her to continue to ignore the criticism and not to listen to what people are saying. And a lot of it is just legitimate concerns about a lot of the stuff that she's doing, whether it's her show or whether it's the products that she's putting out. Just last week on his show, Link Lauren unboxed a candle in real time on his channel that didn't have a wick. How can you burn a candle, a $64 candle that doesn't have a wick? And then he goes to try to return it via her website. And I don't know what the progress is now. He said he's going to keep us informed, but there's no way for him to get a refund on this because of, I guess, the nature of the products that she's selling. But that's terrible. You need to have an open line of communication between yourself as a founder and your client base. And I even go into it in my video that I talked about how I feel, in my opinion, her brand is dying beyond the fact that her candles don't have a wick. I talk about how for $64, people that are buying $64 candles are usually people that like luxury items, that are candle connoisseurs, that know about candles. In her candles, there's a blend of coconut, soy, and paraffin wax. Paraffin wax is a big no-no in the eco-conscious, friendly, luxury candle space. That tiny little candle that's $64, paraffin wax should not be an ingredient in that because paraffin wax is not clean burning. Paraffin wax releases what's called VOCs into the air as they burn, which is an acronym for volatile organic compounds, meaning that it pollutes indoor air as it burns. Now, some people might not care about that, some people do. But that was my point in that video. You are charging exorbitant prices for cheaply made goods. That's gonna make the indoor air quality in my home less healthy. And it can trigger allergies, it can trigger, lung irritation. There's all that kind of stuff. But that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying You have to listen to people. It's not just negative noise and harsh, unfounded criticism or external judgment, as this article's quoting her. It's honest feedback that she doesn't want to hear. Those were the 5 things that I'm still seeing her. She's pulling out her victim narrative. She's pulling out her playbook. We don't see how hard she works. We don't see how nice she is. It's just exhausting, you guys. It's just exhausting. And it brings me back to the point that I wanted to make about all of this that I'm seeing and how I believe that it is all unbelievably dark and disturbing. Because to accuse everybody out there or out here of unfairly criticizing her and trying to take her humanity when she herself has taken away her own humanity. And in reading that article about those German sisters that voluntarily took their life through that assisted dying association, suicide is a tragedy. Suicide is a person that is at such a deep, dark, desperate point where the only option that they see is to take themselves out of this world voluntarily, of their own volition. It's a tragedy because it's the inability to see your own inherent self-worth, is to not see yourself as a child of God. We are breathed into existence because our Creator wanted us here. That is the beautiful central message of Christianity, is that God is all infinite, all divine, all love, all powerful. He's everything. He is the Alpha and the Omega. He was there before the existence of whatever we call time, and he's going to be there when time has run out. He's going to be there at the end of the age, and he is love, and he created us to share in that love. And he created us here on earth to share love and communion with each other, to practice that love and that community with each other, to prepare us for the divine life with him when we die and when we are with him, hopefully, if we've led a good life. But point being, he lacked nothing, but he did it out of love for us, to create us and to share that love with him and each other. Tragic reality that is suicide, and now how there are associations out there that call assisted death humane and try to talk these people, in my opinion, into unaliving themselves because, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't cherish life or feel that they can go on. And believe me, these people do have really valid reasons at their core that they believe are right and reasoned as to why they do not want to continue living. But it's really sad because at the heart of it, life is a gift from above. It's divinely originated. It comes from God himself. And it's not something that we should be able to decide to take away or to keep because it's our own individual autonomy, because it was given to us as a gift and it is held in ownership by our Creator. It's the full dignity of what it means to be a human person that is the ultimate gift from God. And our culture tells us that independence, that autonomy to do what we want to do for our own pleasure or for our own survival, that's what's most important. And it takes God out of the equation. So hearing that story and seeing about how these people are making decisions to take away their lives, that's what you're doing, is you're taking away your humanity, your basic dignity. And then it reminded me about how Meghan used the tragic topic of suicide in order to deflect criticism that she was starting to receive. And what I also found so tragic about the story of those German twins, the Kessler twins, was, suicide is not only a personal affront and attack against your almighty Creator that wants you here out of divine love. It's also tragic because it severs your ties and your obligations to your fellow man, to your community, both your intimate community of your family and friends, but in society at large. It sends a horrible message that people around you don't matter, that your moral obligations to them doesn't matter, because if you can just willingly just take yourself out without thinking about how everyone is going to process and deal with that, that's a tragedy. As a Christian, I'm called to live my best life to live as Christ commands us to. We're supposed to be walking examples of the gospel so that we can get each other to heaven. So to read that these twins went into this assisted dying together and ultimately decided to make that decision together without the thought about how it would affect the community and the culture at large, it was just so sad and just really gut-wrenching for me to read. They were both 89, but they both never married, and they both were extremely close to each other their entire lives. They lived near Munich in adjacent apartments that were separated only by a sliding door. And they decided to die together rather than live, have one pass and one live alone without her sister. And while that expression of love at its heart is beautiful, it got twisted somehow so that the only way that they saw out of their situation was to unalive themselves and be in this assisted dying program. And just to know that it was the topic of suicide and to know what Meghan did with that topic in her own little narrative that she's been trying to push, the victim narrative, over the past 5 years, made me see both of them. Although they seem to be different circumstances, it's both the same topic. It's the tragic topic of suicide, but it's two people embroiled in it and falling down the rabbit hole in it. And it's one, Meghan, using that to get what they want, so to speak, to gain leverage within her family and friends, her inner circle, manipulating Harry in that sense, but also within the culture at large to get us to stop criticizing her. But in both instances, what do we have? We have people that don't understand their inherent self-worth. So tragically, the Kessler twins lost their life because they didn't understand their inherent self-worth. They didn't understand the depths, the precious depths of their own humanity. And it is divine because it was created in the divine image and likeness of God, our creator. And when Meghan was on that Oprah show talking about her negative, dark thoughts about wanting to unalive herself and her unborn child, all the years I've been following her, I didn't hear anything like that before. And I haven't heard anything about that topic since that was brought up in the Oprah interview. And that's what makes me think that even more so to this day, that it was just a little tactic that she was using to try to garner sympathy and control the narrative, because of the fact that you haven't heard anything about it since. Because think about it. Another one of her personas that she's constantly trying to push to us is that she is a cause-driven humanitarian. So if you're a cause-driven humanitarian and you actually went to that deep, dark place of not only wanting to possibly take yourself out of this life, but an unborn life as well, apparently she's come out the other side. Wouldn't that be a cause that you would want to talk about and something that you would want to champion, that you would want to maybe take that up as a worthy endeavor to maybe speak to other women, particularly pregnant women, about what you went through? Because she's cause-driven. That's one of her personas. She's a caring, cause-driven humanitarian. Why hasn't she tried to platform that as an issue? She hasn't, because she realized that the tactic didn't work, that people didn't believe her. They didn't believe that that's what she really wanted to do, and that's why she hasn't discussed it since. And I think she's probably embarrassed about the fact that she used the sensitive and tragic topic of suicide in order to get sympathy. That's why she just never talks about it anymore, and that's why she wants it to go away. But that is indicative of somebody who is losing their own humanity through their own actions. The depths that she will go to manipulate people and to manipulate the narrative, that right there shows someone that has lost their humanity. By all accounts, her husband has a very fragile mental psyche. It's not Meghan. I don't really feel that she feels that she's that vulnerable. So that's just what she wants us to think. But it's actually, I think, her husband that is on very, very shaky mental ground. I mean, didn't he write in his book that for years after, he didn't even really believe that his mother was dead? He didn't really come to terms with or have, I guess, anyone really around him to help him make sense of Princess Diana's tragic death. So I really feel that he was emotionally stunted in his growth and in his mentality. And that framed the way that he looked at women, the way that he looked at relationships. He has really strong, in my opinion, abandonment issues. She knew all this. She knew all this and she played upon it. So that's why, again, that was such a powerful thing for her to do, a powerful narrative for her to try to play, especially to him, to play it to him as if this is how I was feeling. And I didn't do it because I knew about the loss that he had experienced in his life. I mean, that's basically what Harry relayed to us, that even though she would explain in detail about how she wanted to do it, how she wanted to unalive herself, but she didn't do it because she understood the reality of his own fragile mental state. And she didn't want to take herself out of his life knowing that he had had that tragic situation of his mother being taken out, ripped abruptly from his life. It's all very, very carefully crafted. So she's been doing this for such a long time. That's why it's so dark. It's abysmal. It's tragic. It's almost like Faustian in its whole just feeling. It's like she's made a bargain with some type of dark force that her main objective is to get us to like her at any cost. Because think about it. She has so much money. I mean, she's not at the billionaire status of, say, a Jeff Bezos or a Kris Jenner, but by all accounts, she has a very, very comfortable life. She'll never have to want for anything. She'll never have to work a day in her life if she really doesn't want to. But that's not enough for her. It's not enough to have the money, and it's not enough to have the privilege, and it's not enough to have the lifestyle. She has to have the adoration. And that's also where I feel that she's lost her own humanity, of her own doing. She's not losing her humanity because of us and all of our, harsh judgment and criticism of her. She's losing it because of the depths that she will go to in order to get fame and notoriety. She wants us to like her so much that she's lost herself in the process. Doesn't have any clue. She doesn't have the fleeting clue or idea about how precious she is and how her own self identity and worth should be wrapped up in her creator and just the fact that she's here with us on earth. As a Christian, it's really, really hard to talk about her a lot of times because she is so unbelievably irritating. And I can see through everything that she does. And that's what makes her so infuriating. But as a Christian, we do have to look at people like this, and we have to look at it. Here's one of your favorites, Meghan, through the lens. We have to look at it through a Christian lens. We have to look at her actions as a tragedy. We have to look at her actions as her losing her own humanity, and it's all self-inflicted. She's doing it to herself, and we have to feel pity for that. And we have to hopefully call attention to the fact that she doesn't need to do this. She doesn't need to keep throwing herself in our face like this. What we think of her is none of her business. She really doesn't need our approval for anything. And she doesn't get it. She doesn't realize it. And that is such a tragedy. That in of itself is the great tragedy that is Meghan Markle.